Chris, 5-0 defeat. Just give me your overall assessment.
Yeah, bad day at the office. One of those days where everything kind of went wrong. We've said to the girls in the change room after the game, it's kind of everything we asked and we wanted didn't happen. Look, football goes that way sometimes. I don't think there's any point in us having a bit of a head loss. Obviously, Shifnal are a really good team. They're at the top of the table for a reason. I think disappointing from our point of view is that we just gave away a fair few sloppy moments. Just felt like we were sort of a half a second behind everything from the get-go today. I think we could have made that game a lot more competitive if we were properly mentally there, and we just weren't for whatever reason. I don't know, and I think we've got to look at we've got to look at why that might be the case. I think there's a little bit more. I don't think that's necessarily a training or analysis kind of thing. I think we've got to look at the deeper meaning that's sitting behind that. Yes, there's been a lot of change. Yes, there's a lot of new players in. Have they all gelled yet? We don't know. So we've got to look at what those reasons are. But look, we knew it was going to be a slog. This was a free hit. Okay, we've missed by a third chunk today. So that was a swing and a miss. We go again on Tuesday. We'll regroup. We'll put the work in, and we'll make sure that we make the proper adjustments for the Lytown game. And that's all you can do when you get beaten this heavily. You've just got to take it on the chin, lick your wounds, no excuses, and we'll just go again back to the drawing board, and we'll kind of see what we can do to make sure that next week is a different story. So yeah, one of those days, and that's football.
And just touching on it, I mean, what's more disappointing is probably just the fact that you had a good point last week against League Town. You battled to that 0-0. We had chances in that game, and then to come here and it just sort of flipped the lid and put us back to a sort of reality check.
Yeah, but the frustrating thing was, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, we just didn't turn up for the first 20. But the second half of the first half, we were really competitive, and actually we were probably having the better of it in terms of patterns of play. We were creating a few chances. We were unlucky not to kind of score at least once. And I felt if we could get a goal back before half time, or the first goal after the start of the second half, you never know. Unfortunately, that didn't come, and we managed to start the second half a little bit slower than we did the first half, which was not what we asked for. And we've come away with a heavy defeat, and heavy defeats they hit hard. I've said when I first came in, we'll be competitive in games. Today was not a competitive game from our point of view, and we've got to look at making sure that doesn't happen again, and that's what we've said to the girls. We can't allow this to happen again, so we'll do our very best to kind of suss that out and figure out why.
And as you mentioned already, you've got Lytown next, and then you finish off with Cos Sphinx. I know you weren't going to focus on Lytown, but how do you sort of see the next two fixtures? Because obviously it's coming towards the end of 2025.
Yeah.
But also trying to get those points on the board any way that we possibly can.
Well, yeah, like I said, we've got to take each game as it comes. The good thing about football is there's always another game around the corner, and you start 0-0. So we've got to just focus on taking points where we can. I think we have to be realistic when we're playing some of the teams that are more towards the top of the table in terms of how we approach those games. I think it's a little bit against what I like as a football manager and what I want our team to play and how I want this team to be. I don't want to be an anti-football team, but I think we've got to be realistic. We're not going to be able to have lion shares of possession and zip the ball around and create multiple chances against these teams that are established. We're a young team. I've said that before. We've got to go a different way and build with talent and youth. And the thing with youth is, it can be inconsistent at times, and that's just part and parcel of it. So we'll fully back them. We're not gonna deviate from that. We're not losing any faith in what we're doing. But we'll try and see if we can get a point against Lie, and then we'll try and finish strong at home against Sphinx, and then we'll focus massively on 2026 and seeing where we can finish up.